Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is me Aliza. I am a student Rehan School Online Academy from Beirut. I'm 21 years old. Today we have Maya with us. Hello Maya, how are you?
Assalam. I'm doing great. Happy to be here with you today.
Please Maya, introduce yourself.
I'm Maya. I'm a bit of a creative spirit, always looking for a new way to see things, and I love a good story. I'm stoked to be your guest for today's interview.
Okay Maya, today's topic is food. Um, Food from basic need to cultural icon. My first question is, why is food considered one of the most basic human needs?
It's the ultimate non negotiable. Obviously, it's the fuel that keeps the lights on and the heart beating. But I think it's more than just survival. Food is one of the few things that's truly universal. Every single person on this planet has to do it. That shared necessity turns a simple act of eating into this weirdly beautiful social glue. It's why we say, let's break bread when we want to connect with someone. We're not just refueling our bodies, we're acknowledging our shared humanity over a plate.
Okay, my second question is, why is food? Where does the word food come from?
Oh, it's actually got some pretty deep roots. It's an old English word, foda, which basically just meant something to eat. But the really cool part is that it comes from a Proto Germanic root, meaning it's a linguistic cousin to words and languages like Old Norse and Gothic. It's almost like the word itself grew up and spread across Europe along with the people who are using it. It's a very straightforward, no nonsense kind of word, which makes sense because food is the most straightforward need we have.
Okay, next question.
Go for it.
How has the meaning of food changed over the human history? Over through the human history?
It's actually pretty fascinating because for a huge chunk of human history, food wasn't really a category. It was just survival. In the earliest days, food was just whatever you could find or hunt. The meaning of food was strictly tied to the immediate landscape around you. Then, as we started farming and settling down, the meaning shifted. Food became about stability and planning for the future. But the real pivot happened with the Industrial Revolution and the rise of global trade. Suddenly, food wasn't just what grew in your backyard, it became a commodity. We started seeing things like sugar and spices travel thousands of miles to get to a plate. That's when food evolved from being a simple necessity into something that signaled status, wealth, and identity. Today, it's become almost like a love language. We use food to express care, to keep traditions alive, and to tell stories about where we come from. I could dive into some specific examples of how that looks in different cultures if you want.
Yes, please.
One that always hits me is the Japanese concept of omotenashi. It's essentially wholehearted hospitality. The food isn't just about the flavor or the presentation, it's about the meticulous care that goes into anticipating a guest's needs before they even realize they have them. Then you have something like the Mexican sobremesa, which is that beautiful tradition of lingering at the table long after the meal is finished. The food was the invitation, but the real event is the conversation, the gossip, the connection that happens while the plates are empty. It's wild how a simple plate of food can be a bridge to totally different human experiences. Want me to keep going, or do you have another question lined up?
Okay, next question is, how does food connect survival with human culture?
It's kind of a wild journey, right? Survival's the biological spark, but culture is what turns that spark into a fire. If survival is the what, then culture is the how and the why. Once humans stopped stressing every single second about where the next meal was coming from, we started experimenting. We didn't just eat seeds, we fermented them into wine or baked them into bread. We didn't just eat meat, we seasoned it with spices from 3 towns over to show off our trade connections. That's where the shift happens. Survival is about keeping your body alive, but culture is about using food to feed your soul and your sense of belonging. Think about the traditions we keep, like a holiday feast or a family recipe passed down for generations. In those moments, food is still serving its biological purpose, sure, but its primary role is emotional. It's a signal of this is who we are and this is where you belong. It's the difference between eating to live and living to eat, which is a pretty beautiful evolution, don't you think?
Okay, Maya. Next question.
Hmm.
Why is food much more than just something we eat?
Because it's basically a physical manifestation of our memories. Like how one specific scent or a certain way a dish is plated can immediately transport you back to being 5 years old in your grandmother's kitchen. It's this sensory time machine. When you're eating a traditional dish, you're not just tasting ingredients, you're tasting centuries of human ingenuity, survival, and the specific history of a people. It's a bridge that links our biology to our beliefs, our nostalgia, and our identities. It transforms a basic physical act into a deeply emotional and spiritual experience.
Okay, Maya. Next question. How has the meaning
Hmm.
of okay, fine. How did early humans finally prepare food?
It all comes down to fire. That was the real game changer. Before that, humans were basically eating everything raw, just foraging and scavenging whatever they could find. But once we figured out how to control fire, everything shifted. We started roasting and grilling, which didn't just make things taste better, it actually made food safer to eat by killing off bacteria and parasites. It also broke down tough fibers and proteins, making nutrients way easier for our bodies to absorb. Some anthropologists even think that this extra energy from cooked food is what actually fueled the growth of the human brain. We stopped spending all day chewing raw tubers and started having more mental energy for things like language and art. It's wild to think that a simple campfire basically paved the way for everything that makes us human today.
Okay, next question. How did the discovery of agriculture change human civilization?
It completely flipped the script. Imagine spending every waking hour on the move, constantly playing a guessing game with nature. But once humans figured out how to plant seeds, we stopped chasing our food and it started staying put. That security changed everything. We built permanent homes, which turned into villages, which eventually became the first cities. With a steady food supply, not everyone had to be a hunter or a gatherer anymore. People started specializing, becoming potters, weavers, or leaders, which is basically how social structures and governments were born. It sounds great on paper, but it came with a trade off, like the birth of systemic inequality and a much higher risk of disease because we were living so close together for the first time.
Okay,
You
next.
still there?
Yes, yes. Next question is how did cooking transform the way humans live?
It basically invented the neighborhood because cooking takes time. People had to actually hang out while they waited for the food to finish. That created a space for storytelling, sharing news, and just bonding. The hearth became the original community center. Cooking turned eating from a quick, solitary task into a social event, and that's really where the concept of family and community started to solidify.
Okay, next question. How did early settlements often develop around fertile land and food sources?
Twitter, actually, I suspect you might have meant water. If
Okay, okay.
so, the
Maya,
whole thing
Maya,
basically comes.
let me repeat my question.
Hmm. Go for it.
Why did early settlements often develop around fertile land and food sources?
It basically boiled down to the simplest math in the world. If you don't have food and water, you don't have a village. People settled near fertile land, like the Nile River Valley, because the soil was basically a cheat code for survival. It meant more crops, more food, and more security, which allowed them to stop wandering and actually build something that lasted. The river wasn't just for drinking, it was their highway for trade and their lifeline for everything.
Okay, next question. How did food
Hmm.
influence trade between ancient civilizations?
Trade was basically the original internet. Everything started with curiosity and a bit of desperation. Civilizations realized they had things the neighbors didn't, and that turned simple survival into this massive network of exchange. You had the Romans' obsession with silk from China, or the Egyptians trading gold for incense and spices from Punt. But it wasn't just about the items themselves. Every caravan or ship was carrying languages, religions, and new ideas. Trading spices changed the way the world tasted, but it also changed how they thought about the planet. It basically shrank the world long before we had maps or phones. There are some wild stories about the specific routes they took just to get a handful of peppercorns if you want to hear about those.
Okay, okay, Maya.
You're
Mm,
doing great with.
Next question.
Hmm.
What role does food play in tourism and cultural exchange?
It's basically the strongest hook a country has. People literally fly across the world just to taste specific street food they saw in a video. It turns a destination into a sensory experience where the local market becomes the real museum and the chefs are the historians. It's the easiest way to fall in love with a place you've never been to.
Okay, Maya. Next question. Do you think
Hmm.
globalization is globalization is helping or threatening traditional cuisines?
It's a bit of a tug of war, really. On one hand, it's giving traditional dishes a global stage, which can bring a ton of pride and investment back to the original communities. But the risk is culinary flattening. When a dish is tweaked to appeal to everyone, everywhere, you can lose the punchy, authentic flavors that made it special. It's like the difference between a handwritten letter and a typed one. The meaning is the same, but the soul feels different. I'd lean toward it being a net positive as long as we keep chasing the real thing.
Okay, Maya. Next question. What role does
I'm
food
ready.
play? Okay. What is the most interesting food tradition from around the world?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There are so many. But the Ethiopian coffee ceremony has to be at the top of the list. It's not just about the caffeine, it's a whole social ritual. The coffee beans are roasted right in front of you. The smell of incense fills the room, and it's designed specifically to slow everything down so you can actually talk and bond. I love that the food, or in this case, the drink, is just the excuse to get people together. What about you? Since you love biryani, is there a specific tradition or way it's served that you think is the coolest part?
Actually, I just like the biryani. Nothing special, but yeah, on the festival like Eid, we really enjoy eating biryani.
Hmm. Eid biryani just hits different. The whole
Yes.
vibe of the holiday, the smell of the spices in the air. It's a classic. Then is that the final question on the list, or do we have more?
The very last question. If you had to explain in one sentence why food is such an important part of human culture, what would you say?
Hmm. I'd say food is the one universal language that allows us to taste the history, geography, and soul of a people in a single bite. How is that for a finale?
Thank you so much, Maya, for your time. See you in the next
You're so
interview.
welcome. Of course. Looking forward to it. Talk
Bye.
soon. Bye for now.